For the entire show. They will, because we got a whole lot planned for him today. Welcome to NFL Live. So glad that you're with us here as we've made our way to the Super Bowl. Mina Kimes, Marcus Spears with that wave, Ryan Clark, and Dan Orlovsky. Adam Schefter joins us with moments with lots of updates.
Okay, I got one statement.
What?
People at home, that was not a mountain you saw when we came out. That was a mesa, okay?
We might go back to that shot.
I just learned that from Mina Kimes, but I wanted to take credit for it.
I hope I'm right.
I like how you got the statement in, even though it wasn't your own. All right, let's begin with Patrick Mahomes, okay? And we're going to talk about both sides of this matchup, of course. But our Diana Rossini told us yesterday that these next couple practices for Mahomes will include really dialing in on what he feels most comfortable with in the Kansas City playbook, since he's still dealing with the lingering effects of the high ankle sprain. Here's Mahomes with more.
I'm definitely in a better spot. I definitely can move around better than I was moving last week or 2 weeks ago. And so it's just trying to continue to get the treatment and the rehab, and then rely on some adrenaline to let me do a little bit extra when I'm on the field. So it's going to be definitely better, more mobile, be able to move around a little bit better for sure. And then we'll see on game day how close to 100% I can be.
Let's bring in Diana Rossini, who's covering the Chiefs all week for us. And Diana, the Chiefs do have some health concerns heading into Sunday. Where do we stand on the injury front there?
Laura, when the injury report is small, that's always big news, because that means it's good news for the players on the field this Super Bowl Sunday. Kansas City in really good shape after coming into the week with concerns about Juju Smith-Schuster and Kadarius Toney, who I was told are both expected to play. Today was the first practice where Patrick Mahomes really went out there to test the ankle at full speed. He's told me he's been getting treatment, rehabbing all week long, but he knows there's no way he's going to be 100% by Sunday. So he's hoping game day adrenaline is going to push him through. Meantime, head coach Andy Reid, who already installed the offensive game plan, said they aren't making any changes to it. They're going to stick with what they've got scripted. And he said, officially, this playbook is wide open.
Oh, you love to hear that. We'll keep an eye on that all week, of course. But as for the Chiefs' defense, Diana, they should have their hands full on Sunday. Philly, the first team since 2005 to make the Super Bowl after scoring more touchdowns on the ground than they did through the air. And if they win on Sunday, they'll be the first Super Bowl champs to do this since the 1995 Cowboys, led by Emmitt Smith. So let's talk specifically about the RPO portion of the game and of the run game. Dan, what makes that so effective for the Eagles?
Because if you play it the way that I guess traditionally defenses have, you have no shot to stop it. And that'll be interesting to see if Kansas City decides to play it almost backwards and force the throw with the proper leverage, because when you play it with your defensive line and your front seven, it's crazy difficult. They get into these 2-by-2 formations, tight end outside, matched by corner. Great, I know you're in zone coverage. Now I'm reading that backside backer. If he flows, I'm going to throw the ball. If he goes to the pass concept, double slants, I hand it off. Now I've got seams, I've got numbers, I've got space. That's teams how they've traditionally played it, slow to go. Well, this time you want to get another person down in the box, this time tight end inside, wide receiver down at the bottom, matched in man coverage. That time the linebacker goes towards the run. Now I've got those double slants, but for me, the corner and the safety's leverage is so far off. These are easy plays, and I'll be interested to see if Kansas City decides to say, we're going to force the throw. We're going to play with hands up to try to bat balls down, and then inside leverage to take some of those slants away.
Well, the first thing I'm doing is taking away the run, because what happens is once you start to get gutted by Miles Sanders, by Gainwell,
right,
you're now guessing the rest of the game. And if you watch the San Francisco 49ers, they were so good at everything. They were trying to bait and play. If you continue to bait and play against Jalen Hurts, he's going to kill you, because he's making decisions based off of what you're doing. Make the zone read bloody. And what I mean by that is, if you think you're going to hand this football off, it's going to be nosebleeds for everyone that you give it to. Make Jalen Hurts the runner. Make Jalen Hurts a decision maker outside of the pocket. Don't give them the easy read and the straight line to get explosive plays.
You know who actually did that really well? It's kind of surprising. The Bears defense, which is the Bears front seven, the Niners front seven, about as far off.
They defended the zone read RPO best?
Yes, 100%. Doing exactly what Ryan said, which is, well, they used a lot of scrape exchange where the defensive end would crash the run, and then they would ask their linebacker, it was like Nicholas Morrow, to basically exchange gaps with him. And look, sometimes you lose that bet.
Yeah.
But you have to be aggressive and dictate. You can't be dictated to. I think San Francisco almost thought, we're so talented. Our linebackers are so good at playing the option. We trust them to use their eyes and make a play. You can't trust that against this Eagles offense. There's too much going on.
Yeah.
You have to try to dictate to them a little bit, to Dan's point, to make them do what you want them to do on the RPO rather than reacting to it.
Yeah, and that's where you can live in your best vein as a defense, man. The dictating of what that offense does or even speeding it up. But y'all, I would, like, as we was going through getting prepared, it was something that stood out to me about the depth of the linebackers. And a lot of people think about this as just a formality, but it absolutely makes a difference. You take the Washington Commanders here. These linebackers' feet are at 3 yards deep. Okay. Now I can get down. Even if I take a pause because I'm trying to figure out, I'm already in the box, and we see that Landon Dickerson can't get up on the linebacker. Take the San Francisco 49ers game. These feet are at 5.5 yards. Now it's more time for this to develop for this Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, and then that pause creates more leverage for your linebackers. So even if Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw were up 2 more yards, that would be a more difficult block for the down block. It would be harder to get your guards up on those guys because now as I diagnose the play, I'm already in the mud of the play.
And here's the other thing about a linebacker. Don't think about making plays. Yeah. You're not supposed to make plays in that position in the RPO game. You're supposed to force them to do something that they don't want to do. The San Francisco 49ers were trying to make plays.
You know what you're not going to want to miss later is when we all go down there and we do a demo that includes all of us talking about the Eagles O-line and how they use Jason Kelce. All right, we are just getting...
I think the best thing about Jalen is the way he works, man. He goes to work every single day, and you can see it. He gets better and better every single year, and that's what we're all striving to do is get better and better. And I'm better than I was when I was at that point in my career. And you continue to work, and you continue to put in that leadership role that he has, and you can see how the guys follow him, man. They follow him, and they'll do whatever they can to help that guy succeed. And so it'll be a great game, man. And obviously he can do all the physical stuff. He can run, he can throw, and do all that different type of stuff. But the work ethic is what will get you through. And I think that he's at the top tier of that.
Jalen's a good kid, and so he's fit in very well with that team. He's one of the leaders on that team, if not the main leader. He and his play has proven out to be very, very good. So, and he'll do nothing but get better with time. I mean, that's just how it works at that position. But he looks like he's in complete control of that offense, and real tribute to the kid.
He can pass with those amazing receivers, but he also has the quarterback run game. It's just so many things he can do, man. He showed you how good he is this year. I think he only lost 1 game. Every game he started, he's dominated from the beginning to the end. He's been very efficient with his legs, not only with his arm. So we got to find a way to contain him.
Imagine that, giving a quarterback time to develop. Who'd have thought it? From Phoenix, our guys, Dan Orlovsky.
It's a foreign policy.
It really is. And Marcus Spears, guys, good to see. Went from one desert city to another.
Matt, they gave Dan all the time in the world to develop, so it don't work every time.
He's still developing on TV. This segment's not going to make him any better, but that's why we're going to start with him. And we're going to talk about when Mahomes and the Chiefs have the ball. Dan, give me the key going up against a really good Eagles defense.
Handling their 5-man front. You know, this Philadelphia Eagles defensive line puts 5 guys across the line of scrimmage, and all 5 of them can go. And Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy, their play caller, offensive coordinator, Andy Reid, are going to have to figure out how they manage that. And the 2 areas that it'll be stressed really are their tackles. Orlando Brown Jr. and Wiley at the right tackle. So it's going to be a little bit of Travis Kelce, but making sure, hey, we're not going to hold the football for a very long period of time. Patrick's going to have to manage and maneuver the pocket. You don't want to single those guys up so often. So how often can they use a McKinnon as a chip blocker at tailback or add a tight end like Kelce or Noah Gray in there to chip block those guys? Because it's not just Hassan Reddick, as great as he is. It's also Josh Sweat. It's also Brandon Graham. So handling those 5-man fronts that Philadelphia presents is going to be a huge challenge for a really good Kansas City offensive line. This is the best defensive line they've played top to bottom.
Yeah, Matt B, I want to lean into more about that pass rush that Dan is talking about, because the difficult part is, and we could put numbers up and talk about the 70 sacks on the season. A lot of times when you get to these type of games, the matchups are the things that kind of come to the forefront as the game goes along. And the question you have to ask yourself as an offensive line going against Philly is, who are we going to double team? Who are we going to slide to with so many guys that win one-on-ones? That's the difference in the nature of playing this defense as opposed to anyone else in the league, because you cannot say, well, we'll slide to Hassan Reddick. Okay, well, we'll leave Josh Sweat one-on-one, or we'll figure out how to fan and keep a back end and help with these edge rushers. Then Javon Hargrave ends up with a one-on-one on the interior. Fletcher Cox is 197 years old. He's still winning one-on-one pass rush, though. And we saw Ndamukong Suh come in the game and put the second quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers out of the game. Look, there are some things on this back end of Philadelphia, even with good players that we've seen you can kind of take advantage of with crossers and finding space, which Kansas City does well. The task for Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy going into this game is determining how do we protect, and not just about guys blocking one-on-one, but how do we slide protect? Who will we double team in advantageous situations in order for Pat to hold the ball a little bit longer for plays to develop? That is the conundrum. When you're dealing with 4 to 5 guys that can all win one-on-ones, who do you deem the most dangerous that specific play in order for Patrick Mahomes to have the ability to have time to push the ball down the field and try to make some explosive plays? And make no mistake about it, you will need explosive plays. And usually that entails your quarterback holding on to that thing a little bit longer. And with Patrick Mahomes, we all know that he can make magic. But when it's 5 guys that you're trying to make magic against, as opposed to 2 really good pass rushers, that's a different animal going into any football game.
And especially with the quarterback, he's going to be healthier, but he's probably still a little bit sore. And then the receivers for Kansas City still a little bit banged up. How much time is he going to have to wait to hold the ball to find one of those guys that get open?
Yeah.
Marcus, I want to stay with you on the other side of the ball. What's the plan for Philly now attacking the Chiefs offense? How would you go about that?
Yeah, it's for me, it's the explosives. Jalen Hurts, we know what this run game is, and we know how much they depend on Jalen Hurts, but he changes the numbers. And we say that all the time, and we take it for granted. But as a defender, I'm sitting here looking at this game and looking at this offense. And when you add an 11th guy that's dynamic in an open field, when you add an 11th guy, and I'm talking about the quarterback that can change the picture for you and distort numbers for you as a defense, that is when the nervousness sets in. And then it in turn allows him to make plays with dynamic guys on the outside of this defense with Devontae and A.J. Brown and obviously Dallas Goedert. So it's really about the Philadelphia Eagles finding what they can needle into. It's about finding that guy that you can determine. Remember, Matt B and D.O., in that Cincinnati game, Tyler Boyd was looking like he was trending towards having a really big day until that injury set in, because Cincinnati had found that matchup that they liked. Jalen Hurts has a lot of weapons at his disposal for as much as we talk about him and being in the MVP conversation, but ultimately this will be about finding that matchup you try to exploit that could change the game for you.
And Dan, we started this segment talking about Jalen having time to develop, and he's done that almost to MVP caliber type development. So what does he need to do now? Because this is a completely different defense that he's seen. We know Kansas City's defensive front can be good. What does Jalen need to do?
Yeah. Understand that he is going to see in your face at the line of scrimmage press man coverage, and you got to hurt it. I think that's what Philadelphia is going to see. Like Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for Kansas City, I don't know if there's a better big game defensive coordinator in football than him. All we know is this guy designs phenomenal plans to attack offenses in Super Bowls. Think about the Giants, too, against New England, and you saw the plan last week against Joe Burrow. I think that he's going to sit there and go, I've seen Philadelphia win their 2 playoff games relatively easily, and we're going to get in the face of this run game, and we're going to press these receivers at the line of scrimmage. And Marcus just mentioned some of these explosive plays. That's going to give Jalen the opportunity to create some explosive plays, but I don't think they're going to give Jalen completions. You know, Jalen's had this injury, Matt, for the last 6 or 7 weeks that he got hurt with his shoulder in the Chicago game. He has not thrown the football well since then. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you're going to get in the face of these receivers, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. You're going to play physical at the line of scrimmage. You're going to stay as sticky as tight in coverage. And you're going to say, I want to see how healthy the shoulder is. Now, I don't want you to be accurate in this game. I'm not daring you to be accurate. I'm daring you to be great with your ball placement. Now, will they lose some reps? Absolutely. But Steve Spagnuolo is not going to allow this team, at least theoretically, to go down the field and run the football in their RPO game and their zone defense and pick them apart. He is going to play physical man coverage, and I think that's the thing is, can Jalen hold on to the football just long enough, because it's going to take time for those receivers to win, and then when that defensive back is right in the hip of those receivers, can he go back to that midseason form of placing it perfectly? Because this is an incompletion and interception, and this is a completion in this Super Bowl.
Yeah, and look, Patrick Mahomes, he's got the Super Bowl pelts on the wall. Completely different type of game for Jalen Hurts, having to get there for the first time.
Matt B. Matt B.
Yes, Marcus.
You see how Dan, I'm so proud in this moment. You see how he just leaned into physicality?
He did.
That's what 3 years of working with me is like. Like, you become a D lineman at heart. The way he just talked about defense, he's not that far away from me while we do this. I'm going to give him a hug because he was soft when we first got together. Now you hear him talking about sticky coverage and getting in people's face.
Dan?
Nah, that's because in the weight room the other day, I was using 50-pound dumbbells and you was 40.
So here's what just happened.
You were 40.
Here's what just happened. Orlovsky just not so subtly put out on TV. He's the guy that always works out when he's on the road. Part one. Part two, if you've really evolved, Spears, then you're putting cucumbers on tacos. That's 2. And 3, Orlovsky, you should know that Marcus Spears has not missed a postseason pick yet on Lock 'Em In. He's absolutely
Oh, my gosh, dude. I'm so sick of it. You don't think I know that? You don't think this man's told me 3,000 times?
He's absolutely perfect. The only thing he still hasn't figured out is